Hello guys. So I'm gonna get straight into this video. I'm not even gonna do too much talking beforehand. As you can see from the title, it does say don't be like me. So I'll give context, right? I haven't been in hospital with a sickle cell crisis for about 5-6 years until this year. At the top of this year, I was hospitalized for a stress-induced sickle cell crisis. Now, everything was going great. I was doing my master's degree and I was working part-time as a receptionist in a GP practice in Northampton. So I was pretty much settled for the most part. Well, okay, aside from some other things, which we're not going to get into. Work, uni was great. So I had started working at the GP practice in November 2023, and then I basically had my probation December, January, February time. So I wasn't doing bad. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't doing terrible to the point where they could just fire me on the spot or anything like that. I made the decision, obviously, for my personal development, professional development as a receptionist. I decided that I wanted to have follow-up sessions where I listened to my phone calls over and over and over again. Between mid-probation and the final probation meeting. So that was a mistake. Just put it that way. Obviously, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not blaming... Is that down properly? Sorry, got distracted. Let me just, clear that and say that it's not the fact that, I made a stupid decision. I just made a decision that at the time I thought would help me. So eventually, I started developing chest pain and I thought, okay, fine, whatever. Like, I didn't attend to it as soon as I could have, because usually one thing about me is until I realize the pain is starting to linger for a bit longer than normal, that's when I'll actually start taking painkillers. I don't just like taking painkillers for the sake of it. Even if I have any form of pain unrelated to sickle cell, whether that's cramps or, something like that, I don't just jump for painkillers immediately. So I guess my bad, but what can we do? And my main trigger is stress. That's what I realized. I remember one day, the doctors sometimes like to open the windows in the office that we were working in when they came downstairs. And one doctor opened the window, or wanted the window opened. So it was opened and it's so cold. I can't go. I think this was the time of year where it was raining a lot. It was raining bullets. It was the rain was horrible, and it was also really windy. I'm not sure about London per se, but in the Midlands it was just pathetic. The weather was awful. So I again wasn't thinking too much of it, but then I think around this time, I started taking paracetamol. It was so cold to the point where I had to put my coat on. Eventually, they closed the window. It was fine, whatnot. I, again, wasn't thinking too much into it. I, took the painkiller, whatever, went home. It got to the weekend. I don't think anything improved. And then it got to Monday. I had a driving lesson. And obviously, my driving instructor could see that I was in pain, but obviously, I was not oblivious to it. I was fully unaware that I was in pain, but in my mind, all I was thinking about was I need to go back to work and whatnot. Da, 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 da. So as I pulled up outside my house, he suggested that maybe I should stay off work. And I was like, okay. When I was a receptionist, I was working from 1 to 6 or even 1:45 to 6:45 for closing. So I was doing afternoon shifts. My driving lesson was at 8 in the morning. Don't ask me why I had a driving lesson at 8 in the morning. Yeah, so um I decided to stay home that day. I thought I was going to see a GP that day, but I think the appointments had gone for the day, so I had to call in the next day for an appointment. So that's what I did. But I decided to fast up myself and try go to work after my appointment on the Tuesday. Lo and behold, that appointment went horrible. That went left. I ended up calling off sick again, and then I basically ended up taking myself to A&E. I don't know if it was the hematology day unit that I called or 111 that I called, but I called somebody because I was like, okay, this pain is going on for a bit too long now, like, what's happening. The experience wasn't awful, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best either, because at the end of it all, which really got under my skin slightly, was that I was taken from A&E to the hematology unit, and then I was literally wheeled to a ward with a bed. Of course, they put what's the word? They put what do they call them things there? The My mind's gone blank. What are they called? They put the bracelet on with obviously my identification and stuff, but they didn't formally tell me, they didn't verbally confirm with me that I was going to stay in the hospital. So I was so annoyed when I got wheeled up to a bed at like 12, 1 in I don't even know what time it was. I know it was late. So yeah, I was so annoyed at that. But anyway, I ended up staying in hospital for 2 days. They requested that I took opioids. I refused them because the last time I was in hospital about 5, 6 years ago, I had a traumatic experience with them, and I don't think, unless I'm in detrimental pain, like excruciating pain, I don't even think I want to take opioids, or well, specifically morphine, because that was the traumatizing medication. I don't think I would want to take it unless it's the only medication that will help me not have pain. My pain was bad, but it wasn't bad to the point that I think I needed opioids. So I was mainly on cocodamol, paracetamol, and oxygen therapy, which did help. I then got sent home from the hospital, and then I went back to work. Unfortunately, the hospital admission did trigger a occupational, well, I say unfortunately, but I mean that in the sense of this, all of this should have been in place beforehand. So it triggered an occupational health appointment, and then it also triggered a reasonable adjustments meeting with HR and my manager. Now, that's another mistake I'd made. Obviously, the manager recited what I told them in my interview, that yes, my sickle cell is well managed. But at the same time, when she did say that to me, I got annoyed because I'm thinking, okay, fine. Yes, I did say it's well managed, but at the very same time, that doesn't mean that my condition should be brushed under the carpet. So my bad for not following up and having reasonable adjustments put in place in the first place, and me not having an occupational health appointment. I should have put those things in place, but at the same time, I didn't really know any better because this was my first permanent job. So all other jobs I'd had before, I'd never had to go through this process, I guess. So saying all of this to say that, yeah, they did give me reasonable adjustments. So, being a receptionist is a very, very, very mentally and physically exhausting job. So I was given time to go on walks if I needed to. to step back from any calls that were difficult, or step back from any patients that were too difficult and stuff like that. Yeah, that was basically how the surrounding events happened around my hospital admission, and this is why I say don't be like me. Also, one thing I want to clear up is the fact that yes, I did say that my trigger is stress, but I feel like with me, once a crisis has sort of started, once it's been triggered, I then sort of am at more risk of further pain from other triggers that aren't usually a trigger of mine, if that makes any form of sense. The lessons that I want you to know: firstly, make sure that you have proper reasonable adjustments and an occupational health appointment done at the very beginning stages of work, because I feel like if I had reasonable adjustments in place, that probably could have prevented me from going to hospital in the first place. Second of all, do not, like, everyone's different, put it that way, but if you do realize that you are becoming unwell, don't be like me and wait a prolonged amount of time before you start taking painkillers or anything of that sort. I know, obviously, I haven't had a crisis in quite a while, so I think I was a bit oblivious in that regard. But at the same time, if I started painkillers earlier, I probably wouldn't have been in the hospital. Also, if the pain has anything to do with your head or your chest, please don't even sit there and wait. I was able to take myself to the hospital just fine. And to be honest, I don't think I would have had it any other way with the pain that I was having, especially because it was in my chest. If it was my back, my legs, my arms, I probably wouldn't have been that fussed. And I probably would have taken a bit longer to get to the hospital. But yeah, acute chest syndrome, as someone with sickle cell, is the last thing you need. So yeah. And then the last thing is, please don't fast up yourself and try and go to work. Please take a step back and actually look at the prospects from a wider point of view. Because obviously for me, one thing I've adapted to since that incident is the fact that if I feel myself getting ill, if I need to take annual leave or if I need to take sick leave, I will do that over waiting for my condition to get so bad that I have to be off longer than if I just took a step back beforehand. Please don't overdo it, especially when you feel your body is turning on you. It just doesn't work out well. So yeah, please don't be like me. Don't do it. But hopefully you could take away some valuable lessons from this story, and I will definitely catch you in the next one.